I don't want to be dramatic, but something took over my body for 7 minutes. It wasn't the most pleasant experience of my life, and I believe that if it happened now, I wouldn't even be able to tell you about it because I would just be in a straight jacket getting taken away from this very house. But it did happen, and I do have a story to tell. So let's start at the beginning. It was 2016, so not long after the release of Pokemon Go, which is an app where you could virtually catch Pokemon all around the city. This is an innocent game, right? Well, yes, unless you're an adult male who's socially awkward and lives with his parents. Then it becomes a nightmare. Because when this guy plays, he doesn't catch Pokemon, he gets attacked by them. One afternoon, I was playing Pokemon Go and I caught a Charmander. Charmander has always been one of my favorite Pokemon, so I was pretty happy. You get a small boost of dopamine whenever you catch a rare Pokemon like that. And I was driving home from the store and I said to myself, hey, why don't I go to the park near my house? I bet they have some good Pokemon there. The park was only about a mile away from my house, so I parked my car and started walking towards the park. And I don't know what kind of Pokemon I was expecting to see at this park, but I wasn't expecting the swarm of Jigglytuffs that were everywhere. They were coming out of the bushes, out of the trees, and even some were popping out of manholes. As a dude with social anxiety, this sent me into a panic attack. They were everywhere. I didn't know what to do. Damn, if you've never experienced a panic attack before, it can be quite hard to describe. But it's this feeling of dread, this overwhelming sense of terror that slowly creeps up your spine and takes over your entire body until every instinct in your brain is telling you to run away, and this was no exception. I ran out of that park as fast as I could. I didn't even stop to think about how weird it was to just run away from a bunch of cartoon female Pokemon. I just kept running. When I got home, I locked myself in my room and laid down on my bed, thinking it would all go away if I just relaxed. About 5 minutes passed, and then it started again. This time it was a Rattata. I saw the little tail pop out of my closet, and then it just kept coming. One by one, more tails popped out. There were about 6 of them. They were standing in line staring at me. I tried to scream, but I couldn't make any noise. It was like someone had stuffed a ball in my throat. I don't remember much after that. The next thing I knew, I was outside on the grass in that same park. I looked around and I didn't see any Pokemon or any other people. But when I turned back to the road, I saw my house. It looked different. It looked smaller. It looked like a dollhouse. For some reason, I felt like if I walked up those steps and opened that front door, I would find my mom and dad waiting for me inside. But that wasn't possible. My parents had died when I was 8 years old. Maybe it was some sort of hallucination. I don't know. I sat there on the curb for a while just contemplating things. It didn't feel real. It didn't make sense. And eventually I decided to walk home, which was odd, because earlier I had ran home. This time, as I was walking past each house, I saw myself sitting on the porch waiting for me. It was me from different times of my life. There was me as a baby in a stroller, me as a toddler holding my mom's hand, and me as a young boy with 2 brand new Game Boys. Stopped and stared at these versions of myself, but none of them acknowledged me. None of them even looked at me. It was like they were ghosts. Wanted to reach out and try to touch one of them, but every time I got close enough, they would vanish and I would move forward in time and end up back on the sidewalk. Eventually I came to the conclusion that this wasn't normal, that something was wrong. So I tried to call 911, but when I pulled out my phone, it was completely dead. The battery was drained. This is when the dizziness really started to set in. I stumbled onto the lawn of a stranger's house and fell to my knees. At this point, I was losing all sense of reality. Time was moving faster than usual. Everything was loud. Every sound was piercing my ears. Colors were brighter than they should have been, and everything seemed to vibrate at a higher frequency. I looked up into the sky, and it felt like the clouds were swirling around me. It was beautiful, but also terrifying. I lost control of my bowels. I started shaking uncontrollably, and I tried to speak, but all that came out was gibberish. I looked around me to try to find someone, anyone who could help me, but I saw nothing but the faces of strangers. All they did was stare at me and whisper to each other. I don't know what they were saying, but their words sounded like the buzzing of flies. Then suddenly I heard my name being called. I don't know how far away the voice was, but it sounded clear as day. I struggled to turn my head towards the sound, and it seemed to be coming from the direction of my own house. It Was it my imagination or was it real? I couldn't be sure. With a burst of adrenaline, I pushed myself off the ground and started walking towards my house. Every step I took felt like I was walking through quicksand. The closer I got, the louder the voice became. It was calling my name, beckoning me to come closer. I didn't want to go, but it was like something was pulling me forward, forcing me to keep moving. As I finally approached the front steps, I collapsed and I don't remember anything else. I woke up face down on my bed. I was soaked in sweat and my heart was pounding in my chest. It was the most intense panic attack I had ever experienced, and it still didn't make sense. What was that Rattata doing in my closet? Why was I seeing these visions of myself? And why did my house look like a dollhouse? But the scariest part was that I was still in my room. No one knew about this. No one would believe me if I told them what I had seen and experienced. I was starting to think that maybe I had finally lost my mind. The next morning, I woke up feeling completely fine. It was like the entire event had never happened. But then I checked my phone and realized that I had received a call from my sister the night before, but I hadn't answered. She called me to ask if I wanted to play Pokemon Go, and I didn't answer. That's how I know it didn't take more than 7 minutes. First, I thought that maybe my sister had been abducted by Pokemon, and it was some sort of warning from her to stay away from the game. But that was ridiculous. It was probably just a coincidence. I threw my phone back on the bed and went downstairs to make some breakfast. And while I was eating, I started to think about what could have caused this. I'm not a religious person, so I doubt it was a hallucination brought on by some sort of higher power. And I wasn't on any medication or drinking any alcohol that could have caused something like that. Okay, so it must have been the stress of the situation, right? All of the Pokemon, the fear, the panic, it must have somehow affected my brain and caused me to black out. But that still didn't explain why I visited my past self or why my house looked like a dollhouse. Even though I had no proof that any of this had actually happened, I was convinced that it did. I just needed to find a way to prove it. So when my girlfriend came over later that day, I showed her the spot on the sidewalk where I had seen my past self. I even dug up some of the grass and showed her the dirt underneath. She just laughed and said that I was crazy. She thought it was just another one of my weird habits. This made me even more determined to find proof. So I checked my security cameras and found this footage of me walking into my garage. Take a close look. Hey, is this what you expect to see? Does this look like a normal person? Look at how stiff my arms are. And what is this bulge in my shirt? Well, the truth is, I haven't found any other proof of that day. I still don't know what caused it, but this is what I do know. Something did take over my body for 7 minutes, and I hope that whatever it was doesn't try to take over again because I might not be able to tell you about it.